watching First Business. Financial news, analysis, and today's investment ideas.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Miles. Coming up today on First Business, confidence boost. A look at how the American worker is hitting their stride in the workforce. Frozen Frenzy, Disney's hit film that is still bringing crisp sales to businesses big and small. Plus, why life's a beach for some of the nation's hottest startups. And Wall Street's job problem, why a shocking amount of brokers claim to be retirement ready. It's all ahead. Larry Shover of SFG Alternatives is here for Trader Talk. Good morning, Larry. And what do you expect from the market this fall?
Yeah, it's tough because we came off a second quarter that exceeded expectations. 75% of S&P stocks beat estimates. It's going to be hard to repeat. But that said, it seems like there's still some groups that are under-owned. And one of my favorite is within the financials, which would be the big banks, the banking centers. I mean, they have done a very good job cleaning up regulation, repricing their products in a very under-owned group.
Do you think it's better to invest in U.S. companies or overseas corporations going forward?
As I look forward, I do still like American companies. I think valuations are fair. They're not stretched. If you go outside the country, I think right now China is the place to go because right now that their growth momentum is going in the right direction. You don't want to go after a country that's still troughing out. China's going in the right direction. So when it comes to materials or industrials on the Chinese side, probably a good bet.
What sectors would you shy away from?
I would stay away from anything gold related and just give it some time because as monetary policy in the U.S. continues to materialize, it's just going to continue to be a headwind for gold. I'm not saying that it's going to go down to 1,000, but I do believe 1,200 or lower is a good year-end target given monetary policy.
Thank you, Larry. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
A steep drop in the number of people who are worried their jobs are in danger. Fewer than 20% of full and part-time workers are now worried they will be laid off. That compares to almost 30% that were worried last year. The data is from Gallup's annual Work and Education poll. Let's toss it over to Chuck Copeland now for more on the labor market. Good morning, Chuck.
After Angie, in today's cover story, the underemployment rate. That's the number of people who are involuntary part-time workers. That number is falling, but at 14.8%, according to Gallup, it is still more than double the unemployment rate. After graduating from college, Tara Colton wanted a full-time job, but had to settle for part-time work for 7 years.
I tried to work 2 jobs for a while, and the schedules conflicted, and I just couldn't do it. And so I had to choose between jobs, even though neither one was supporting me fully.
2 weeks ago, Colton found full-time work.
Having a dependable paycheck, knowing approximately how much it's going to be every time, and knowing that it will be enough to support me, I just can't even describe what a relief that is.
Colton's part-time problem underscores a growing problem in America's workforce, the number of people stuck in part-time jobs. It's not just fast food workers who want a higher minimum wage. Last month, it increased by 275,000 to a total of 7.5 million Americans.
We've seen the rise really in the lower level positions, the positions that are paying minimum wage and a little bit higher, so you're going to about $11 an hour.
But not everyone believes that the U.S. is on its way to becoming a nation of part-time employees. Joel Freeman, who consults businesses in personnel decisions, says the part-time trend reflects short-term uncertainty, not a long-term shift in job security. As to President Obama's Affordable Care Act's impact on employers' mandate to offer health coverage beginning next year, Taz Wilson thinks it may not be as drastic as some employers fear.
The ones we've surveyed are not anticipating a large amount of their lower level employees were earning $9, $10, $11 an hour participating in the group health plan. It's just not affordable for them, so they'll opt out of it.
Part-time workers whose jobs average under 35 hours a week used to comprise about 17% of the workforce. It rose sharply during the recession and accounts for about 1 in 5 working Americans today.
Farmers out west are digging deep to rescue crops from the severe drought. Kai Sisson reports on how well drilling companies are soaking up opportunity.
The cows need a lot of water, at least 50 gallons of water a day in the summertime. So
if you're out of water, you're out of business.
Pretty much.
Out on Jason Storm's dairy farm in Fallon, Nevada, the irrigation ditches have run dry and water is scarce, even 200 feet underground. Storm Oasis Dairy has relied on well water for the 8 years they've been in business. And now that it's bone dry, they have had to invest in a much deeper well to keep business and the cows alive.
We were running out of water and the well was going dry. We were pushing a lot of air.
That's where Bruce McKay Pump and Well Service comes to the rescue. And when water is make it or break it for business, saving the day is exactly what they do.
It truly is an emergency business. There's a lot of work where it's non-emergency, but when the no water does come in, everything stops.
During one of the busiest seasons they've ever had with work orders 3 months out, Koenig says he has had to turn down business from panicked ranchers in nearby California to help local folks like Storm. And drilling a well is risky business. Though drilling professionals have a pretty good idea if water is down there or not, there's no guarantee, and the price to drill can be as much as $150,000. A gamble Jason Storm must make to save his farm.
We couldn't cool the milk anymore. We couldn't get water to the cows to drink. We'd be in really bad shape.
You really don't know what you're going to hit until you get in the ground and start drilling.
Storm dreams of a healthy winter season, but if dry conditions continue, he can rejoice that water will keep pumping from beneath the earth for now. Kai Sisson, First Business News.
Although women own nearly a third of businesses in the U.S., a Senate committee report concludes that those companies receive less than 4.5% of loan dollars. And Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington State says that lack of funding prevents women-owned businesses from expanding and hiring. There's a bill being considered to close that gender gap. Some business consultants say expansion of staff members instead of part-timers is critical to company expansion.
Whatever your company is offering, the core of that is going to be a full-time, with benefits, doing what it takes to attract the best talent so that you can put out the best product.
Small businesses seeing the most improved hiring picture include those in the tech sector, those affected by Medicaid's expansion.
That leads us to the Disney film that's creating a cottage industry. Kids can't get enough of the animated box office smash Frozen. The film has won 2 Oscars. More than 3 million copies of the film have been sold on DVD. And now other businesses are turning profits on a slice of ice. Jackie Keenan takes us to the heart of Disney World.
If you know a 4-year-old girl, chances are you know this song. Little girls everywhere just can't let go of their obsession for Disney's animated film Frozen. The film, which was released in November, is already one of the highest grossing movies of all time, and its music continues to dominate the Billboard charts, as well as minivans.
They know every song, they've seen the movie probably 100 times.
And trying to find and buy any Frozen merchandise is just as mysterious as Queen Elsa.
We haven't been able to because a lot of it's been sold out.
Call it a Frozen frenzy, and businesses that cater to kids are cashing in.
It's tremendous for business. You know, anything that's going to capture little girls, I definitely take that and go wild with it.
Dance studio owner Lisa Schmedicke is hiring more staff to accommodate the popularity of her Frozen-themed summer camps. She did have different themes planned weekly, but all of her students just want one.
I think I have right now 5 Frozen camps and 1 afternoon camp. I'm sad because poor Cinderella got let go.
And across town at the ice skating rink, business is on fire because of Frozen.
I personally think it's been as good for us as the Olympics was this year.
Birthday parties, which is a main source of revenue for the Tampa Bay Skating Academy, are in demand. Parties are booked now months in advance.
Our birthday parties have grown considerably in the last 4 or 5 months as a result of the movie.
And as for choosing a favorite Frozen princess, there's only one that little girls want to be.
Elsa. I like Elsa too.
For First Business News, I'm Jackie Keenan.
Frozen is the highest grossing animated film of all time, beating out all the Toy Story films, Monsters, Inc., and Aladdin. Still to come, leading ladies are ruling at the box office. That's later on in Movies and Money. Plus, why big brokerage firms are facing an employee crisis. And after the break, tech startups head to the beach. We'll be right back. An ambitious and growing group of entrepreneurs are pushing for Western Los Angeles to become the next Silicon Valley. In true LA style, some call it Silicon Beach. Stephen Mead, founder and CEO of Magmo and one of the more prominent players, explains why the Southern California area is attracting startups.
From an infrastructure standpoint, LA's really started to put a lot together in terms of infrastructure and trying to marry technology. I think, in my personal opinion, the biggest growth has been the convergence between digital entertainment, Hollywood celebrity influencers, and a lot of the technologies out there that are driven on the consumer side.
CEB Insights reports an estimated $4.7 billion has been invested in Los Angeles-based tech companies during the past 5 years. And since 2009, funding from venture capitalists has risen 163%. One of the hottest IPOs to sprout from that area is TrueCar.com. Also, social media sensation Snapchat started up in Venice, California. Bill Mahler has more on a job shift happening on Wall Street.
American companies consider relocating overseas to avoid taxes. Well, we've reported on inversions before. Here's another twist in tax avoidance. Advisors from large brokerage firms are leaving, taking their clients with them, starting their own firms, yes, in part for tax reasons. Elizabeth Dilch wrote a comprehensive story about this for Reuters and joins us by Skype. So, Elizabeth, what are the facts here?
The facts are that financial advisors at the nation's 4 largest securities brokerages, Morgan Stanley, UBS, Wells Fargo, and Merrill Lynch, are all finding that if they leave the brokerage, retire, sell their business to an independent broker-dealer or a registered investment financial advisor, then they can get more money on the sale of their business, sometimes 2 to 4 times as much, and they can get it at a more favorable capital gains tax rate.
How significant is this? Is this creating a big impact with the brokerage firms? Because I know we have a cresting wave of retirees about to come forth.
You're right. There's estimates say that about 100,000 advisors will be retiring in the next 10 years. So that's a third of the industry.
You say that the wirehouses are worried about this. How are they fighting back?
For example, Merrill Lynch has created a program that advisors can go into before they retire. They will work with one other, their successor basically, and they'll work with that person to solidify client relationships and make sure that those clients stay with the person who takes over their business when they leave. That makes them feel more secure because their retirement offer is contingent on whether or not their clients stay with the firm after they retire.
Well, it's a fascinating story, Elizabeth. We're not hearing too much other than your reporting on this. Very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, a seasoned trader tells us how he knows when it's time to sell his stake in high-flying stocks. And after the break, why women are taking the lead in Hollywood. Stay with us. The ladies are working hard for their money at the box office. Our film guy Eric Childress is here with a rundown of woman power, starting with success this summer that we saw with Maleficent.
Yeah, Maleficent, Angelina Jolie's sort of pet project, turned into a huge movie for Disney this summer. It was the second most profitable film of the summer.
And what about Lucy?
Lucy, you know, Universal moved this movie up in their summer rotation. They moved it up a couple of weeks, and Scarlett Johansson still having sort of the heat from the Avengers and Captain America, and it turned into a success for them too, over $100 million at the box office.
A film that we talked about earlier this year, The Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah, I mean, this was, you know, the young adult story of the summer. You know, Shailene Woodley had Divergent earlier this year, which turned into a minor franchise success for Lionsgate. And this movie, you know, $12 million budget, grossed over $270 million worldwide, the box office. You know, ladies really flocked to that movie.
Why do you think the women are doing so well?
Well, I mean, look at last year. I mean, last year we had sort of an unprecedented year where, you know, The Hunger Games obviously is this big franchise, but it's a franchise, you know, spearheaded by a strong female protagonist that Jennifer Lawrence plays, and that turned out to be the #1 film at the box office in the U.S. And also, you know, it might be an animated film, but Frozen was a gigantic success for Disney, and some of the Maleficent success can be attributed to that because it was sort of, you know, they were right on top of each other, and you know, it's just sort of a nice thing to see that there is room in Hollywood for ladies to, you know, have a success like this.
Do you think that film studios are taking note of this and there'll be changes?
I hope they are. I mean, sometimes it's just an anomaly, sometimes, and sometimes they say, it's a passing fancy and whatnot. But, later this year, The Hunger Games Mockingjay is going to be coming out. It's going to be the #1 film of 2014. So, obviously they're looking at a lot of these young adult franchises where, females are front and center. If I Stay recently, Divergent, Fault in Our Stars, for example. So, they are taking note that there is room and an audience for, female-centric films.
One of my favorites this year, definitely Belle. Backed by a woman, stars a woman, and it's a terrific film.
A limited release from Fox Searchlight that ended up, just on only 500 screens, but ended up doing 10 million, and that's a success story.
It's worth your time, really, because it's historic. It's based on a true story.
Yeah. And we're going to see a lot of films throughout the end of the year that have strong female characters, or at least interesting female characters, and that's something we want to hope from Hollywood, that it's certainly a male-driven business. You're going to get 3-4 movies with the male-driven stars compared to female ones, but maybe hopefully this is we're going to see it rolling downhill a little bit, and we're going to see this start happening.
So momentum. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Still to come, how to know when to trust your sell instincts. That's next in Chart Talk. One of our pro traders from the trading floor joins us now, Tim Bigham, a trading block. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Angie.
We want to know, when is the best time to sell off on a stock? So many people who watch this show are holding stocks for the long term. But is there a signal that traders watch for as to when to actually take some profits?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sentiment, is always the case. The old Warren Buffett kind of analogy, sell when others are greedy, buy when others are fearful, certainly applies. So when the market's going straight up like it seems forever, usually in hindsight seems to be a great time to be selling it. You can look at, such things as relative strength getting, overbought. You can take a look at, above the 200 or 50-day moving averages. But, stocks that are starting to look a little bit, parabolic on the price charts, in hindsight, like I said, always seems to be a good time to take profits. So when you're counting the money a little too hard, you might want to take a little bit off the table.
Is there ever a time when you should just hang on forever to a stock?
Yeah, it really depends on, again, your holding period. Again, to use Warren Buffett, his holding period is forever. Obviously, tax implications, talk to your financial advisor about all that. But, if it's a more of an income kind of stock, a higher yielding stock that doesn't have a big beta, in other words, doesn't have a lot of price movement to it, obviously hanging on to that makes a lot more sense than some of the big momentum names, that can move up quickly and down even more quickly. So the type of stock, I think, will tell you whether it's a long-term kind of core holding that generates income or more of a speculative play that you really do have to time probably a little bit.
And before you take off, what would be a great question to ask your tax accountant about this play?
Really, I mean, there is some, tax selling that makes sense. So if you have some losses, that you've already realized, harvesting some gains, might make some sense. So again, I think, take a look at, what it looks like from a taxable event. And if it makes sense tax-wise and the stocks, kind of near the upper part of the trading range, probably might not be a bad time to, get the best of both worlds and take a little bit off the table at that time.
Tim, thanks for helping us out today.
You bet. Thank you, Angie.
That wraps up our show for now. We hope you'll follow us on Twitter or friend us on Facebook. From all of us at First Business, thank you for watching.